Creators, welcome back after a bit of a hiatus. The pod, we have a very, very special guest with us. His name is Brian Felsen. He was not only the head of marketing and communications for Harmony, a ton of great projects in the industry, but he was also the president of CD Baby. And I hope we're gonna dig a bit into his experience. He's here to bring us a lot of about the intersection on Web3 and music, which is something that I am very dear of as the founder of Soundwork as well. So welcome, Brian. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Real pleasure.
You're listening to the Web3 Creators Podcast, where we speak to the brightest minds and builders in crypto, DeFi, NFTs, and the metaverse. Our goal is to give you the absolute best tools for building a thriving business in the Web3 space. Now, here's your host, Hernan Arbor. Let's start creating.
Yes, great to have you here. It's nighttime here. What time is it? I see the daylights.
Yeah, it's in the morning here. Yeah.
Nice, great. So tell us a bit about you. Where are you tuning in from?
I'm in Los Angeles.
Sunny Los Angeles. That's cool. You guys, is it still like? Do you have a cold winter in Los Angeles, or it's like here, which is like half sunny and?
Yeah, it depends on the day. It's going to be very warm in the 20s Celsius later in the week. But I'm wearing a sweater right now, so it's really it's day to day, but it's pretty warm place generally.
That's super cool. Brian, let's get a bit of it onto your story. What brings us? What brings you here today? Where did you start? Taking me back, however back you want to go. Maybe even to your start in disc makers. I still have copies of my old CDs of my first artist album. I was making electronic music, and I managed the label. And some of my releases, I released them to CD Baby. And it's funny because I'm still getting like chunks of $50 every now and then from CD Baby, whereas the sort of like the BMI of Israel, which is called Akum, they barely they barely paid me 12 shekels every year, something ridiculous like that. So yeah, let's get into your story. Tell us, where did you start?
It's great to hear that you can get some mailbox money still from CD Baby, and it's always it was one of the real premises of it is to help artists distribute and monetize their music. And, and we had some artists like Joe Purdy, who built a house with money from CD Baby. It's just, and people use it to pay utilities or to pay gas money for touring or for whatever. And it's a great thing. I got into it. I had run a while ago, a rock and roll music conference in Philadelphia, actually, which kind of blew up, and it became the third largest in the country at the time, a festival that had 500 shows at 31 clubs all around the city, and it was an annual thing, and it was sponsored by disc makers. So after I left CD Baby, disc makers brought me in. After I left the conference, disc makers brought me in. I ran their film program and their merch program, started those. And then we went on to buy CD Baby, and then I went on to run that for 6 years. And CD Baby, it was a crazy time in music. I mean, we were basically making the transition from physical media and just CDs to digital downloads to streaming and YouTube monetization and foreign royalty collection and all of publishing and all the other aspects of the music industry as we know it today. So that's how I got into CD Baby. I'm happy to talk about how I got
and how it. How old was CD Baby when you guys acquired it? Did they already have like active users, releases? I mean, it was still the whole.
It was huge.
Yeah,
it was huge.
Okay.
We bought it in 2008. And then I did it till 2014. It's got millions and millions of tracks and many hundreds of thousands of artists. So it's it was at the time it was the largest independent distributor of independent music in the world. We gave iTunes and Spotify between 15 and 20% of all their music.
Amazing. And how are you guys dealing on CD Baby with the transition from CDs, which that was why CD Baby was CD Baby, to like streaming?
I mean, that was incredibly difficult for many reasons. Firstly, the whole music industry was kind of imploding as physical media was dying and everybody was pirating the music from Napster and everything. And for a time,
Pirate Bay and
yeah, from anything, and LimeWire. And for a long time, the way that tide stemmed was that Steve Jobs had made an ecosystem such that it became more convenient to just buy a digital download, for 99 cents than it would be to just to steal it. And that was great. CD Baby kept modest to 9%. Apple kept 30. Artists were still able to make plenty of money. Streaming kind of flipped the equation on its head because streaming ended up being a great deal for consumers, but not such a great deal for the artists. I'm happy to talk about that later.
Yeah.
But transitioning from physical was hard because we had a warehouse with millions and millions of CDs, and that was in decline. We had a staff that was skilled at at shipping CDs and packing and picking, packing and shipping CDs. So it really, and the technology that was optimized for purchase of an album, and that we had to make it to be a single and then a stream. So it took an entire technological shift into a whole new system. It took lean management of the team during a very challenging economic environment. It took bringing in processes to make the warehouse self-sustainable, but still and efficient, while still maintaining it while pivoting to streaming. And it took hiring and training people to be able to operate in the new environment. So most companies that tried to make that transition did not survive. We survived and thrived, and that's something I'm very happy about.
I saw that. We were also distributing some CDs to SciShop Records in Germany, and a lot of CD distributors just couldn't do the shift properly, and they just ended up, either closing shop, or they just shifted like markets. So that was I think a very tough transition. How do you feel that we've made it to today? Like, I feel that there's this feeling that on the surface, like, music's fine and dandy, everything's working well. The same old incumbents at the big labels are doing their thing. Artists are coming up every day, and there's enough of new music for everyone at all times. And is it something that we can capitalize on?
It depends on who the we is. I mean, if the we is the independent artist, if it's become extremely challenging, and that's why I'm excited by Web3 music, which we can talk about. But in terms of the labels are going to be fine. From catalog consolidation, acquisition, investment in the streaming services themselves, rapacious and unfair 360 deals to market artists. It's really, the labels I'm not worried about or shedding tears for the poor labels. It's hard to, or the executives at them.
I also put out a label. It's tough to, if you're not one of the Sony, Universal, and the big labels.
I meant the majors.
It's also rough to,
I mean a small
but I do see that labels should be seen much more as what they are, which is more like a marketing agencies, for the artists, which are promoting them, connecting with the fans, instead of this book like this, the gatekeepers and holders of the actual music rights.
In an ideal world, that is now the value add that the label has. It's not that they've got the relationships with the rack jobbers at Sam Goody record store. It's that they can help develop the artist as a brand. But the dirty secret of major labels and the dirty secret of traditional publishing is that it's still incumbent on the artist to do their own marketing, and a label prefers an artist that already has that piece in place, so that way they can bet on what's already a winner and, as you would say, capitalize.
Yeah, no, for sure. So what brought you into crypto, Web3, blockchain? I think you started at Harmony. So how did that transition happen?
Yeah, I had stayed away from crypto for a long time, much to my regret, because I had been to the Future of Music conferences, and if I had gone to the Future of Money conference and had a bunch of Bitcoin, I'd be on some island somewhere.
Well,
But everybody
that's what
says
we
that.
all say. But
Everybody says that. I know.
listen,
I
most
know.
of the people who bought Bitcoin at $100 sold half at 400. So
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
And most of the people that have the personality to have done that have also invested their bag in something else, in goofy tube NFTs or something else, and would have lost their shirt that way. So
yeah,
I can't worry about it. It's a cliche that comes to mind when I'm tired. But I had stayed away from crypto for a long time. I thought that it was really just for criminals and gamblers and radical libertarians. While that is to a
which
large
still
degree
is, but
true, it's to
it's
a
just a
large
part of
degree
it.
true. I did not know then that there was real utility. And I met two women who were, I had started within CD Baby, I had started Book Baby, which is ebook distribution, which then became like print books actually. And these two women were looking to release their book and said that they wanted to do it as an NFT. And I said, well, why? And I thought it was just a fundraising thing, like how NFTs, a lot of NFTs are just fundraising, either a crowdsourced thing, or they're just a bunch of liars or dreamers who say, yeah, buy my NFT collection and we're going to make a game, but they're just LARPing at ever being able to make one. It's just, even if they're not rugging, these things are a lot harder to execute with cost and development, budgetary and treasury management, and then above all, product market fit on the product. So, but what I learned from these women and from talking to the people that were trying to get me into crypto for so long in the first place was that if they bought the NFT, it could have real utility. So I started looking into it, and I realized that I could sell this as an NFT, give them access to the book, but then I could also give them access to exclusive content, right? And in addition to the exclusive content, I could give them access to token gated access to Zoom, where they could speak to the authors, or IRL tickets. And then I realized that I could I could automatically program it. And I ended up downloading Node.js on my laptop, and I'm working with this coder, and we're suddenly making a collection. I realized I could program it so that it could automatically shoot the profits to a multi-sig, and then that could go to a DAO, and now people could have a say in what was going on at these events. And all of a sudden, I realized this is not just a tool for speculation. This is a way to get people to exclusive content, exclusive access, and above all, the ability to engage with the artist and for artists to monetize and distribute their works fairly, which is something that has been my entire career. And I realized that this is the way. And that completely opened my eyes. And I was way down the crypto rabbit hole. And all of a sudden I'm at ETH Denver and getting COVID at ETH Denver like everybody else. And I'm going off, and then Harmony gets hit by North Korea for $100 million and loses the ecosystem that way. And I'm
Wow.
working for other projects at the same time, and it's all just like I'm living a full crypto dream, and it's been
yes. So wait, let's just break that apart a bit, because it wasn't all of a sudden. If you were already doing Node.js, understanding NFTs, digital ownership, how smart contracts work, what's a DAO, and how all these things work, you were already quite down the rabbit hole at that point.
This all actually was all of a sudden, in order to get involved with Harmony, they had a very fair system. It was open and transparent, where they would pay everybody a very handsome wage, and you would have very good incentives and work with a brilliant team, but you had to work your ass off. And what I learned from, I always thought, because I've been involved with startups for a long time, having run one and helped a lot of teams with pitch decks and finding their product market fit. I thought, oh yeah, wow, the startup culture is very fast, but crypto is much faster than that. And not only that, there's no help desk. It wasn't like, if I wanted to say, okay, well, how do I mint a collection? It wasn't like the developers were too busy to help me out. It was like suddenly I'm diving down the Discord forums and researching and asking people and pinging people on Telegram and hopping on quick little chats and trying to decipher their cryptic, poetic responses. working like 16 hours a
learning
day. Yeah.
firsthand what an impersonator is.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. So the whole thing, I was learning on the job. It was right when I started Harmony. In those 3 months, I worked myself silly, and it was like a boot camp. It was amazing.
Yeah, well, that was, I think that was also like for all of us, right? What year was it?
That was
Three.
2022. So that was like right, the bull market had already crested,
Mhm.
and then I got in at the bear
That was
market, which was,
around the peak of NFTs. Like that was a
it
peak
was pretty much
fever.
at the peak of, yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Wow, wow. I was working as a director of mobile engineering for Voice.com, which had a very smart social media type of platform where it was like a medium like long form content, which each one of those posts was an NFT, and then you could bid on it, and the one who had bid the most at the end of like 24-hour period. So it was like game theory, and the one who they would have get the kind of the rewards out of the engagement for the post for the time to come. And that was kind of the concept, right? But at the peak fever of the NFT mania, the directors, they decided that they want to pivot into an art NFT marketplace. And I was doing engineering back at the time. If I would have been doing product at the time, would have at least they would have asked me. I was like, listen, don't do away with the user's content because that's going to destroy the community. Just add an NFT marketplace as a feature, as another tab, as an extra feature. But it didn't go down that way, and so the community was pissed off. And the new product, which was an NFT marketplace, which we had plenty of OpenSea's by then, OpenSea wannabe marketplaces, obviously was super trashed by the community because they were all pissed off that the content that they thought was theirs because it was minted on the blockchain was suddenly all gone. So I also had a lot of experience with the peak bubble, the peak hype of NFTs. But whenever people ask me, well, I thought NFTs were dead because nobody was already caring about a picture of an ape, or that was just a fad. Everyone could see it. And my response to that is like, yes, the hype cycle of the pictures of apes being worth millions of dollars, that has blown off. But the core premise of like true digital ownership, the ability to give access, the ability to mint artwork and distribute it peer to peer, or have a different new type of connection with your followers, I think that is here to stay. The question is, how do we identify, how do we build a product that breaks through and makes it clear that the music and NFTs, it's not just a money grab, even though most of the time it is, but it's like a new way of interacting with the artists that you love.
Yeah, and I have many thoughts on that, and it's really part of what the platform does, and it's part of how they make it easy for artists, whether that's, the main thing is to align the incentives of artists and fans so that it's not, fake gamification or financialization. It's important for these platforms to reduce friction, to get people to come aboard, artists and fans alike, and then to really be able to segment the market in terms of outreach for major artists, established indies, and long.
Yeah, and something that is very well, that's our bread and butter at Soundwork, is we were trying to redistribute the building blocks of the music, what we call the loops and samples, and all the building blocks that musicians use to produce that music, which is right now basically it's more of like a free for all, right? The current incumbents like in Splice and Lander and all those services, you pay a membership and you get like all the sounds you want on a like monthly basis. And I think there's also a lot of potential there to kind of allow us to backtrack the source of the creators, and then we can reward like all the creators in the process, because now also imagine that we are now using all the music to train this AI models that are generating music. And if we don't nail this correctly through blockchain and NFTs, then there will be a point where the AI version of Rihanna is making better tracks than Rihanna, and the AI version of Taylor Swift is making larger sales than Taylor Swift. And how we must kind of allow for the creators, like the human creators of the art, to somehow be rewarded in perpetuity. Would you agree?
I would, from an ecosystem perspective. So, I'm happy to talk to you later about, and what you're doing if there's anything private that you don't want shared on this. But,
No,
I think that,
we're all an open book.
yeah, okay. I think yes to everything you've said, but I think the main challenge is to speak to the house on fire problem for a particular user and a particular constituent, and to steer thinking less than you have been toward the ecosystem as a whole. So in other words, that you've got your producers, you've got your beat makers, you've got your recording artists, you got your enthusiasts. These are people that you've identified, but it's people going to use a new system for a new monetary model on a new platform. It has to solve for each of them. And that's the creator and the fan alike. What is the felt need that they already have and may or may not be able to articulate? And how do you solve that when their house is on fire? So otherwise it's an educational mission, and I hate educational missions. I hate
Yeah. Yes.
when I ran a music conference, I started off and I lost a lot of money, but when I went with the appeal that Philadelphia needs to bring together the rock and the hip hop and the acoustic music. And that, from an ecosystem perspective, is true. But the individual user needed to get their music in front of major labels at the time. So once I really laser focused on that problem for that user, it's like Uber. Uber is like, you're coming out of a club drunk, 2 a.m. What problem does it solve? Well, push button, get car, 4 words. So you have to solve that for these 4 constituencies that you said, without trying to do too much of an education music and an education mission while still delighting the consumer.
And I understand what you're saying, because that is also the dilemma that we are facing, right? Because the house on fire problem is kind of evident on the music producer side, right? They're working a lot, they're putting out a lot of music, they get 1 million streams, and they get a couple of $100 for that. So that is obviously like a burning problem. But on the end consumer side, there doesn't seem to be an issue, right? Consumers enjoy their music. They can get it on Spotify or YouTube or whatever. And if they don't, they'll just, download it wherever, stream it whenever. There isn't it's hard to see where consumers can get this new experience that is going to make them go, oh, like Spotify is a thing of the past. Let's now use this new way of accessing our music, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's never been a better time to be a consumer. I used to go to the CD store or the record store and pay, $10 to $20 to hear an album, and now I can pay $20 or less, and every month hear the entire history of Western music and Eastern music at my command, like I'm some sort of some sort of music god. And that's crazy. But for an artist, it sucks. Like for an artist, it's like, if they're making 1/3 of a penny to a half penny a stream, how that maths out is that an artist would have to get 300,000 streams every single month to make the United States minimum wage. And that's just not sustainable for most. So for the consumer, how do you make it better? Is that there's a couple levers. Number one is you convince some of the bigger artists that, hey, you're going to make more money elsewhere by monetizing your super fans, and you'll have actual more money coming in from this other thing. If Taylor Swift were to leave a platform and go to some other, it would be, would really, and more like her if they were to band together, that could be one way.
I
Another
think
way is
that
just,
was what titled. I think that was titled. It attempted at doing.
yeah,
They
exactly. It was
said
a
we
title
have this
move.
big
Exactly.
platform. There's the music that you're gonna hear is top quality, and we have this and this and this artist now releasing exclusively with us.
Yeah. So that's one way. And the other is to
The
really
question is, did it
just,
work? Did it work? Are they thriving? I'm not
that's,
really
well,
aware.
there's lessons. I haven't studied them, but you're right. That's exactly what they did. So you have to study what are the lessons learned from there, and can it be replicated? For fans, it is more complex. It's easy for the artist, right? The artist can get more money than their fractions of a penny per stream. They can engage with the fans, and they can have greater control over their creative work. For fans, you really need to give them extras beyond what they're getting, and they really have to care about it. So you need to incentivize them to make a switch, whether that's token incentives or exclusives. You need to give them special content like remixes and bonus tracks, and even better early ticket access that they can't get on Spotify. But the
Yeah.
main thing that the fans can get, which they cannot get on the streaming services, is access. Token gated communities with each other, and ideally with the artist, so that they can feel that they're participating in the artist's story.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
if it were easy, other companies with deeper pockets would have solved it. The fact that it's not easy does not mean it's not a worthy or possible problem to solve.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think it is. I think it is super worthy problem to solve. It's not only worth solving it. I think it's worth a lot of money to solve it, right? Because it will revolutionize the industry. But I think the point that we've all missed, which we haven't cracked yet, right, is that the offering for the listener that will motivate him enough to say, I want more than my $12 a month or $20 a month membership cannot be slightly better. It cannot be, hey, listen to my unreleased tracks as well. It has to be like orders of magnitude better, right? That is why you have the new layer ones like Solana and Avalanche and EOS at the time competing with Ethereum, because they're not doing 2 times more transactions. They're doing like a 10,000 transactions per second versus the 20. It has to be, if you're offering a new thing that is solving this for the same problem, it has to be like orders of magnitude better. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah, to make anybody switch, sure. But it happens. Alta Vista was a great search engine, as was Yahoo, and Google came around, and MySpace has features that I deeply miss on Facebook, but their missteps led Facebook to come along with a cleaner interface and a fresh start, and people went to there. So it's really, it's very possible. It just requires, a good team, good funding, and good vision, and a real understanding of how to align the incentives of the artists and the fans, and not just look from the point of view of, oh, this is, we have a technology, and we're going to gamify it, or we have a way of financializing it, because it's not just about the money for people. This is art as well. It's not like they're selling Venetian blinds.
Yeah.
So it's really there's a lot of hoops that have to be jumped through, but it's a worthy thing.
Brian, why do you think that companies like, let's say, SoundCloud, right? They have millions of sounds on their platform, and other like major labels. What do you think is the pushback for them not embracing blockchain and NFTs, and not embracing this technology? Where do you think is the, like, I understand that for the big labels, the world is working pretty good. They're doing fine. Like Sony, Universal, they don't want to ruffle up the feathers and then change how things work. But where do you think that pushback is coming from? What do you think is stopping the music industry from adopting blockchain NFTs, just like banking industry?
That's easy. I mean, that's how the music industry behaves. I mean, it took them 10 years to adopt DDEX as a standard. And did not start with Spotify. There was RDO before it, which PS Spotify's interface looks scarily like to this day. But also, streaming. There was, I think, Rhapsody made this streaming player years and years before. This is not. These are not new concepts, and they will be adopted. But the music industry, it's very hard to get consensus among a number of players. There are large corporations, which are large ships that are very difficult to turn. They're not technologists by and large. Warner has a fairly admirable, new technologies division where they explore and investigate this stuff. But a lot of the, the labels, they want to own it, they want to control it, and they want to know that they're going to win from it without cannibalizing their own sales. So
Right.
they will, and it will be adopted, and it will be it will come out not the way we want it to. But the music industry didn't say. The music industry would still be selling CDs at $14.99 a piece or $18.99 if they could. It's only when something comes along that makes it impossible to, or it becomes
impossible not
really,
to make the shift.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. Or if it becomes much more.
Do you think we will reach that point with NFTs and Web3?
Absolutely. It's given. It's the way that digital content is going to be monetized. I suspect that it won't be called NFTs when we do necessarily, because NFTs do have a bad rap from all of the hype and the speculation and the fallout from the heady year 2020. Yeah, absolutely. I really think it is the rails in the future of how ownership and provenance of any digital asset is going to be tracked and rewarded. So yeah, I see mass adoption as a when and not an if. It's just, who is able to execute best and do the right business development deals to make it happen with the larger artists.
Yeah. Definitely. Brian, I want to get your thoughts on meme coins, and I'm going somewhere with this. So probably, what do you take on meme coins? Are you pro? Are you anti? Do you own? Do you think they represent the future? Just a fad? Let's hear it.
They represent the present, and my thoughts on meme coins don't matter. It's like death and taxes and presidents, and these are things that just are. Yeah, and meme coins are, and they're the fact that they're of the moment and having success is undeniable. And I could say yes, but what about utility? Until the cows come home. But I was talking to an investor in Masa and Intmax, a couple projects that I was involved with last year. Does somebody ever says to you, well, what's the utility? The answer is, fuck you is the utility. Utility is that speculation and line goes up is why we're all here. Utility is more of a guarantee that the coin will be on the right side of, that the supply demand curve is going to be fortuitous to make line go up. But at the end of the day, the cryptocurrency is a currency. If the supply is low and demand is high, it's going to do well. So that's a long-winded way to say it's a fact. It's here. It's of the moment, and what I think on it doesn't matter because that's what it is. But yes, utility is good, kids. Utility is eat your broccoli. Utility is good, but meme coins, they're here. They're here, all right.
So let me show you where I was going to with this, right? Because there is, I don't know if you've heard, but there is a very curious new trend with this meme coins and the blender with AI agents that, if you haven't heard, they are basically AIs that can develop their own kind of personality, and they can not only respond. So you have the AI like search engine, which you call ChatGPT and Perplexity. All those, would you ask questions and they reply? But agents kind of can take actions on their own initiative, right? So where am I going with this? There's a a new experiment by this guy's Coop Records. I really love that guy. He's doing very interesting stuff on the Web3 music space. But look at this artist, Louder. So this Twitter account is actually being managed by an AI agent, which means all this posts, all these tweets that you read here they are basically AI generated. If you respond, he will respond. If you tag him, he will enter the conversation. And this artist has a meme coin, right? And the way that this works, and this is super interesting because this is what I want your thoughts on this experiment, right? Whenever you buy some of this meme coin, for every 10,000 Louder tokens that you get, you unlock one super loud NFT, which gets airdropped to your wallet. And I'm not sure how they do that because I got a few like NFT airdrop, but I thought they were just being generated automatically. It turns out they do have like a limited quantity, which is super interesting to know what's gonna happen when the supply of these NFTs, if enough people buy it, like it's over. But the thing is, like they or him, they've released their first EP on Spotify, and I've listened to it. It actually looks pretty cool. I can assure you that this was not AI generated music. There are some like well-known producers behind it. I think there are two Emmy award-winning artists behind the art here. But I think it's really fascinating how we are starting to blend, the whole NFT music, Web3 music space with this new trend of meme coins. So what do you think of this?
I don't know. I have not looked into it enough to really be able to have an articulate opinion on it. I have very much obviously played with Perplexity and ChatGPT, and I'm reading up on the agents, and I think it's very interesting. I also love what the Obscurest Vinyl account is doing in terms of AI generated music, and some of my favorite songs last year, not their newer releases, but some of the first things that they came out with are some of my favorite songs of 2024, which is kind of
Obscurest Vinyl?
Obscurest Vinyl, yeah. I mean, some of the music there I just think I've been singing in my head since the summer.
And
if you look on
like
Spotify,
AI generated?
Yeah, it's AI music. I'm convinced that he writes the melodies himself and that he uses Sora, but the songs some of them are just absolutely wonderful, and no joke. And I am envious of that in a way. I made an album myself of secular gospel music, which was like black music of the 70s sounding black gospel music of the 70s, but done with secular lyrics. And it took years to get together some of the top musicians to record in the styles of Reverend James Cleveland and Edwin Hawkins and all the rest. And here he's able to use Sora to write a tune, put it in a Sora, say, make it sound like this and have it come out beautiful. So I think it's great. I think it's really great, the idea of community participating.
Wait. I'm just reading about for the first time. His number one track is "I Glued My Balls to My Butthole Again."
Yeah, that absolutely. And there's YouTube videos explaining actually the complexities of the song's construction.
It's time to take a shit on the company's dime.
These songs are. Now, the lyrics sound like a joke in a way that Frank Zappa's music can sound like a joke if you look at the lyrics.
I love Frank Zappa.
Yeah, so imagine that, but the music here, as I say, there's videos talking about the construction of the structure of some of the music. The tunes at their best are extremely catchy. The styles are spot on to the idiom that he's playing with, and it's extremely inspiring and really, really, really cool. And you should have Glenn on, and he could talk about his process as well. He's very reachable.
Do you know him personally?
I've chatted with him briefly, but my whole point with all this is that my interest in AI is for music is if it can help artists distribute, monetize their music, fantastic. Helping artists create their music, I am much more interested. It's inevitable, once again, that it's going to be a tool. It's like a computer is a tool, or digital DAWs are a tool, or the typewriter was a tool. This technology is, I would like to see a real partnership between human and AI to create art, but one in which the individual has more direct stylistic control over the inputs rather than just say, hey, like a text to video prompt and just having it come out. Like I would like to see more of the human element in art. So,
for sure.
My interest in art is much more
but if you're sitting with like let's say I produced a lot of my thing was like psytrance music with rock and roll. I used to play live guitar with the music, and you generally sit down with an artist and you kind of, because they're from your same kind of genre ecosystem, you guys kind of know what you're doing. You put in a kick, you could put in a bass, you kind of know your stuff. But if you're sitting with an AI musician at your studio that has the entire library of music in his knowledge, like he can compose from Mozart all the way to jazz, going through modern music, pop, hip hop, and what you name it. Well, wouldn't you like it's hard to go and say, argue with this musician you're sitting with, like, no, this melody should be a minor, not major.
Yeah, no, this is a harder, deeper conversation about the future of the artistic endeavor, as well as the value of art in society, or as a defining element in what it means to be human. And I believe that however or whether it is reinforced or whether it becomes just like meditating where nobody gets paid for it, nobody wants to see your meditation, I do think that it will continue to be an essential practice for people with more primitive tools, ideally, to actually live. But that's a much larger conversation.
I agree with you that
I have to go in 1 minute. Is my
no worries. So I agree with you that people will always want to make music because that is within us. I'm not sure if the future listeners will always want to hear AI generated music instead of human made music. But anyway, because you have to go 1 minute, Brian, I want to really, really thank you for your time, for coming into the Web3 Creators podcast. And, if you want to leave us with just where people can reach out to you and see your content and watch your posts, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm I'm on LinkedIn at my name, and I'm at Brian Felsen. I'm on that's and YouTube. I've got a YouTube channel there. I've got music on Spotify there. I'm not.
What's your artist name? Brian Felsen too?
Just Brian Felsen. Yeah. And I'm not on X much, but that might change as circumstances.
Well, you're gonna miss the bull run if you're not.
Exactly. So yes, exactly.
Are we doing a part 2 on this?
It depends on both of our schedules if they align. But
Perfect.
But we'll reach out.
All right, cool. Brian, this was amazing. Thank you very much.
Have a great evening over there. Look forward.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Web3 Creators Podcast. Make sure you follow us on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and all of your favorite platforms. And if you're serious about building your own Web3 business, head over to web3creatordojo.com and check out our courses. That's web3creatordojo.com. See you soon, creators.